A house divided against itself cannot stand. There is a concerted effort to get the American people to turn on each other. We've seen up in New York, I believe it was, the mayor of that city created a tip line so that citizens could narc on each other for not practicing social distancing. But there's something even more pervasive, and it's been going on in the media and with our government for decades. And it's in the basic handbook for psychological operations. I have shared those websites before. Your Logical Fallacy, just like it sounds, .is, and yourbias.is. I will also share them down in the first pinned comment. In the last 24 hours, there are 3 individual stories that use this one particular psychological operation to do this. It's the same technique, just applied on 3 different stories in the last 24 hours. And in this video, I'm going to detail that for you to show how important it is that everyone share with your friends, share with your family, and teach your children about psychological operations and how they work. Now, what is that specific one we're talking about? It's called the black or white fallacy. You presented 2 alternative states as the only possibilities when in fact more possibilities exist. They have been using this for a long time. Probably the most popular iteration of this is, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. That's probably the most commonly known one from the last Bush president. There's also another kind of tangential technique called false dichotomy. It's a lot the same thing. Basically, that says there's only 2 kinds of people in the world. There's those that agree with me, and there's Satan worshipers. That's it. False dichotomy. And people have been playing this game for a long time. So, here is example number 1. Okay. I'm sure many of you are aware of the situation up in Idaho. There was a woman who went out to a park. There's been allegations it was all staged. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. And the park was closed, and she went there with her kids anyway. A whole bunch of people went along, filmed everything. Now, many of you might think, well, the police had 2 choices. Either do nothing or arrest her. A or B, black or white. Absolutely not true, not the case. There was a third option for the police in Idaho. You know what they could have done? They could have just cited her with a civil infraction. Now, here's the beauty of doing it this way. They basically write her a ticket, just as if she had been speeding. Let's say she got there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's just assume that. You walk up as a police officer and say, ma'am, the park has been closed. No one's allowed to be here, and I'm going to give you an opportunity right now to pack up and leave. If you don't, I'm going to write you a civil infraction ticket. It's $500 per person, per hour. So here's your ticket if you choose not to leave. I'm going to be back at 2 o'clock. If you're still here, I'm going to write you another ticket. And I'm going to do that every hour on the hour. Now, here's the beauty of this. I know a lot of you are already typing. Just give me a minute. Then the police officer can turn around to all of those petulant little social justice warriors that were out there trying to shame the woman and say, okay, you need to disperse. The authorities have handled this. If you continue to harass this woman, we will cite and arrest you for the same thing. Because what you're doing is harassing somebody. We've already dealt with it. Move along. Now, many of you are like, why would you take that poor woman's money? All she's got to do is contest it. She's got 30 days to pay it. If she wants her day in court, she can have her day in court. but it gets dealt with 60 days from now or 30 days from now in front of a judge. After all the cameras are shut off and after all of the social media nonsense has died down, and the judge can just dismiss it or amend it. Say, okay, we're going to fine you $10 at some point down the road when this is all taken care of. See, that's your third option. It would have fixed all of the problems. And I'm going to go back to this picture to show something. So they surrounded this guy's house, right? This police officer's house. He could have, had he done that, come out to these people and said, look, I was told to go arrest the woman by my superiors. Did I agree with that? No, I had to follow orders. But this is what I chose to do. I chose to try to handle this in a civil way. I tried to just write her a ticket and get everybody to disperse. And I'm sure a lot of you are saying, well, they would have made him arrest her. Okay, then he can say that. He can say, I tried. I did everything I could. It came down to a point of I lose my job or I arrest her. And if you have a problem with the sheriff that ordered me to do it, take it up with him. Take it up with the mayor. So, third options. That's third option number one. Now, I'm sure you're looking at this and going, what the hell is this? This is a picture of people exercising on the beach. You see, here's the problem. There was, even the folks on the left are saying, okay, it's all right, I guess, if people go and they're walking their dogs up and down the beach, or if they're exercising, but nobody can lay on the sand and nobody can tan. Well, we used to go up to the beach all the time. And we would get there, and the first thing I would do is I would go jump in the waves, and I'd go swim for a while and dive in and out of the waves, and it's, a pretty good workout. If you do it for long enough, you get exhausted, and then I would go for a jog up and down the beach. Then, I would, at that point, my legs are rubber. Anybody who's ever run in sand will know what I'm talking about. And so you want to sit there and you want to relax for a minute, 20 minutes, half hour. Well, guess what? I was there to exercise, but now I'm sitting on my towel relaxing. So, am I right or am I wrong? Am I violating the law or am I not? You see, it's not an A or B thing. You see, this is exercise. And sorry about that. But what about this? Planking is exercise. But what would you say this girl's doing? Well, she's laying on her towel. Is she getting a tan? Yes. Is she exercising? Yes. See, once again, A or B, everything falls apart here. You can't use A or B thinking. You have to use discernment and judgment. And once again, I'll go back to the police. Just write civil infractions. Write tickets 30, 60, 90 days from now. The judge can just dismiss them all. That way, you can go to the media, you can go to the social justice warriors and the little nut jobs and say, look, we handled it. Now, if you continue to harass these people after we have already dealt with the problem, we're going to cite and or arrest you for doing the same thing. Do you see the problem? A or B, either do nothing or arrest somebody doesn't really work. Third options. Now, the final. And this was my favorite. The coronavirus is not transmitted sexually, study finds. I see. So if you go and share an elevator with somebody, you're at risk, but if you go mattress dancing with somebody, you're not. Now, of course that's not the case. What they're saying here specifically, apparently, is that coronavirus isn't transmitted specifically through semen. Right. But what does the headline say? The coronavirus is not transmitted sexually. That's completely wrong and irresponsible to report. You go swap and spit with somebody, whatever they have, you're gonna have. This isn't rocket science. Clearly, if someone is sick and contagious with the coronavirus, and you go and have relations, I can virtually guarantee you are going to have it. Because you're doing so much more than sharing air. But this is the New York Post. The coronavirus is not transmitted sexually. The reason they're saying this, the reason they're putting this headline out, I can guarantee it, is because people have asked the question, why has there been no guidance from the WHO or CDC about not doing this, about not engaging in sexual activity? Because it would be hypocritical, and then their story would all fall apart. Just like we saw yesterday with the DHS guy showing that UV and being outside, fresh air, kills the virus. It lives for less than a minute. Inside, where they're saying you should be, it can live for up to 18 hours on surfaces. Now, what's the logic? I guess you have to do the logic for these people. If a virus can live inside on a surface, 72 degrees, 20% humidity, and it can live on a surface for 18 hours, the likelihood of you being contaminated with something at, let's say, a grocery store is much higher than the chance of you getting contaminated at the beach. Because who knows if somebody has it on their hands and they go pick up a canned good at the grocery store and they haven't recently sanitized their hands and it's on their hands, and then they put it back on the shelf and they walk away, and 25 minutes later a person walks up and picks it up. Now it's on their hands because it can live on that canned good for 18 hours, up to. But running around out in the wind, out in the sun salt air, somebody breathing the coronavirus out, forget the wind is going to completely take it immediately anyway, that coronavirus is going to live for at the most a minute and a half. I don't even think it would live that long at the beach. Because there's always wind at the beach. I don't care what day it is. I mean, I'm sure there are some days when the breeze is less. But you go out here to North Florida every day, there's a good, solid, steady breeze. I don't care how many people you had sitting next to each other. You couldn't share the same breath without literally doing what these people are if you tried. So 3 specific examples of A or B thinking completely falling apart and destroying the narrative. So, people of Idaho, just under advisement, there are ways to not be enemies with each other. We figured this out in Florida a while back. We have made, I've said this before, I'll say it again, very genial relations with our local authorities. We don't make them our enemy. We talk to them. They live in our neighborhoods. We reason with them. They don't want to arrest us. They don't want to be seen as the stormtroopers. They want to serve and protect. Are there bad ones? Yeah. But are there also bad civilians? Yeah. Any group of people, you're going to have your occasional bad apple. But do everything you can to, just like the people of Michigan, perfect example. Their sheriffs are their allies. There's one that's been very vocal about his opposition to Miss Whitmer. Imagine if we could do that across this country. And instead of seeing the security forces as our enemies, we could see them as our allies and do what we can to present a united front. Because understand this, if they're being told that protesters are the enemy of the state, that they are risking people's lives, that they are a threat to public safety, and they're being told that in their briefings, and then they go out and they see protesters, and the protesters are coming at them and angry and shaking fists and yelling and calling names, it's going to be easy for them to believe that. But if the people that they're dealing with come to them in a reasonable way, in a polite way, in a respectful way, and don't make themselves to be out these aggressive types, the police are going to be like, wait a minute, hold on. We were told these people were a threat to public safety. These people are just decent, good, honorable folks going about their day. So once again, maybe this is a fourth option, a fourth example, pardon me, of A or B thinking. You don't have to either be a stormtrooper or be a rebel. You can be the person that's in between, that says, yeah, I think it's a problem what the government's trying to do, but I also don't see these guys as my enemy. Because they're not. They're absolutely not your enemy. We have to present a united front against some very sick mentally people, but they're in very high positions of power. These people here at the top are not your enemy. Like, share, subscribe.